on your mobile device. Until next time, stay with us. Off the Earth, for the Earth. I think it's time to eat.
Yes, sir. Reading it loud, sir. We have one of the most challenging assignments that has ever been given to modern man. Expansion of human knowledge about space.
We've been assigned the mission of launching a scientific Earth satellite.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire command. Fire command.
Development and operation of vehicles capable of carrying instruments and man through space.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Long-range studies of the benefits of using aeronautical and space activities for peaceful and scientific purposes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. And a new era of American space exploration.
Preservation of the role of the United States as a leader in aeronautical and space science and technology. We have a mighty big job to do.
Okay, I've set it to 1.
Good day from the International Space Station Flight Control Room here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers on console taking a shift handover from the Orbit 1 team, ready to support their Russian counterparts a half a world away at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow in support of what should be a compelling 6.5-hour spacewalk today. Oleg Kononenko and Sergei Prokopyev to conduct a thorough and detailed inspection of the outside of the Soyuz MS-09 spacecraft that is ready to come home and bring Prokopyev, Serena Aunin Chancellor, and Station Commander Alexander Gerst back to Earth on December 19th, U.S. time. Here in the flight control room, the flight director who will be in charge of today's spacewalk from the U.S. side, Zeb Scoville, at the bottom of your screen in the white shirt, completing a shift handover. He is joined on console by others who we will get into in just a moment. Outside of Moscow in the Russian Mission Control Center, the Russian flight control team, you're looking at a live view from a balcony camera overlooking that cavernous flight control room. They will be in charge of today's spacewalk. They will be talking directly to the cosmonauts as they conduct their work outside. Kononenko and Prokopyev all suited up inside the Pirs docking compartment airlock, which is currently being depressurized, running about 15 minutes ahead of the timeline in advance of the expected start of today's spacewalk that will be measured at the time that the hatch to the Pirs docking compartment is opened. That's the signifying moment when Russian spacewalks' elapsed time is measured from hatch open to hatch close. Oleg Kononenko, the flight engineer who next week will become commander of the International Space Station, will be the lead spacewalker for today. EV-1, extravehicular crew member number 1, wearing the Orlan spacesuit bearing the red stripes. This will be the 4th spacewalk of his career, 3 previous spacewalks totaling 18 hours and 27 minutes out in the void of space. His spacewalking colleague today, Sergei Prokopyev, who is also going to be the commander of the Soyuz MS-09 vehicle that will ride home to a parachute-assisted landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan next week, making the 2nd spacewalk of his career. His previous spacewalk back in August, 7 hours and 46 minutes of spacewalking time. This is the 213th spacewalk in space station history in support of assembly, maintenance, and upgrades. The 8th spacewalk out of the International Space Station this year. 5 previous U.S. spacewalks, 2 previous Russian spacewalks in this calendar year. While this spacewalk is underway, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it in just a moment, the other crew members on board the International Space Station will be monitoring the spacewalk activities and conducting other work in support of the unloading of the cargo on the SpaceX Dragon cargo craft that arrived at the International Space Station back on Saturday. The station commander, Alexander Gerst of the European Space Agency, and Serena Aunin Chancellor, who assisted Kononenko and Prokopyev in suiting up just about an hour and a half or so ago. They will they'll be free to move about the cabin, as it were, working on other activities as the 6.5-hour spacewalk unfolds. The newest arrivals at the space station, NASA flight engineer Anne McClain and Canadian Space Agency flight engineer David St. Jacques will also be working on maintenance activities. They'll be spending some time continuing to orient themselves to the life on board the International Space Station. They are at the outset of a 6.5-month mission on the orbital outpost, and they will be working in tandem to conduct that orientation as well as other cargo and maintenance activities throughout the course of today's excursion outside by Kononenko and Prokopyev. You're looking live at a picture right now from a truss camera on the International Space Station. At the very top of your screen is the forward section, the bulbous section called the orbital module, sometimes referred to as the habitation module of the Soyuz MS-09 spacecraft that is mated to the Rosviet module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. It is right at that interface between the Soyuz, or basically the top of the Soyuz vehicle, and the Rassvet docking port, where the work will be conducted today by Kononenko and Prokopiev to cut away a 10-inch layer of multi-layer insulation right where those insignias are located, just below, or as the orientation would be, just above the Russian Cyrillic word for Soyuz. They will be using a series of tools, cutters, and knives to cut away a 10-inch section of multi-layer insulation, and then about a 10-inch section of orbital debris shield that lies underneath that insulation, to be able to look directly at the hull of the orbital module correspondent to the area inside that section of the Soyuz where a hole was detected back on August 29th following flight controllers observing a loss of pressure in the space station. The crew on board the station was never in danger and quickly moved to seal up that leak through cloth material and an epoxy sealant. It is expected that once the insulation and the micrometeoroid debris shield sections are cut back to expose the hull of the Soyuz, that some of the sealant that would have extruded to the outside of the hull of the Soyuz will be evident. Kononenko and Prokopiev will use swabs to collect some samples of that sealant material, basically for analysis back on Earth. This is not, and we will emphasize this repeatedly throughout the course of today's spacewalk, this is not a repair effort today. It is a data collection and analysis exercise where the two cosmonauts will be inspecting and collecting samples and photographic documentation of the hull, of the surface of the habitation module, to gather engineering data for Russian specialists on Earth as they work for future analysis of the potential cause of the source of the leak that was detected back on August 29th in the vehicle. The spacewalk will also allow specialists to look externally at the effectiveness of the internal repair that was effected by Prokopiev and Alex Gerst back on August 29th. The material that was injected into the hull, this epoxy sealant on the inside of the habitation compartment, is expected to be seen on the outside, as we mentioned a moment ago. That external data and the observations could provide data that will be useful for the refinement of future leak repair techniques. The Soyuz MS-09 that again will return to Earth next week with Prokopiev, Gerst, and Anand Chancellor, has been thoroughly checked out. It has been deemed perfectly safe for the crew to return to Earth back on December 19th U.S. time. A landing scheduled on the central steppe of Kazakhstan, the parachute-assisted landing, on the night of Wednesday, December 19th U.S. time at 11:03 p.m. Central Time. That will be 11:03 a.m. Kazakhstan time on December 20th.
I'm really cold, so I have switched the temperature switch to position 2. Do you want me to put it in position 1? No, that's fine. Okay.
This is Mission Control Houston as Oleg Kononenko and Sergei Prokopiev continue to monitor the depressurization of the Piers docking compartment. It is very evident in this view on the left side of your screen. That is the module at the lower left of the screen. Docked to it is the ISS Progress 70 cargo craft that recently arrived at the station and which will depart the station in late January. It delivered some 3.5 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the residents on board the International Space Station. That Piers docking compartment, the venerable dual-purpose module that has served as both an airlock and a docking port for numerous spacewalks out of the Russian segment of the station. That is where the two cosmonauts are located at the moment. Once the depressurization gets down to vacuum, the flight control team in Korolyov, which is in charge of today's spacewalk, will conduct a thorough systems checks and communications checks with the two cosmonauts before they are given the green light to open the hatch to the Piers docking compartment that will signify the start of today's spacewalk. Once they're outside of the Piers docking compartment, Kononenko, who is again designated as EV1, or extravehicular crew member number 1 for today's spacewalk, he'll be wearing the Orlan suit with the red stripes, and Prokopiev, wearing the suit with the blue stripes as EV2, will retrieve a foot restraint from that is currently housed on the large diameter section of the Zvezda service module, and a foot restraint adapter that will be used to be installed on one of two so-called Strela booms. Strela, which is the Russian word for arrow. These are telescoping booms that extend to a length of some 49 feet and will be used by Kononenko to be swung around, essentially, first to the Zarya module, where a second Strela boom is located. He will then dismount from the Strela 1 boom. He'll plant his foot into a foot restraint onto the Strela 2 boom that is housed on the Zarya module, and that will enable him to get to the work site on the habitation module of the Soyuz vehicle that is mated to the Rosviet module on the Earth-facing side of the International Space Station. So the first order of business is to retrieve all of these tools and foot restraints. Then Kononenko will translate or make his way from the Rosviet module to the forward portion of the Zarya module using the first of these two Strela cranes. He'll install a foot restraint and an adapter then on the second of the two Strela booms, and will then access the Soyuz leak area that you see in this graphic, where he will then begin to use a series of knives and cutting tools to cut away through about a 10-inch section of multi-layer insulation blankets and the micrometeoroid orbital debris shield that's underneath those blankets to get to the hull of the habitation module, correspondent with the area where the hole was detected back in August and which was a few hours later sealed to stop the reduction of pressure inside the International Space Station. The work that was done back on August 29th to seal up the leak that was detected inside the International Space Station took a very short period of time, and ever since the leak was sealed up by Prokopiev and Alex Gerst inside of the habitation module of the Soyuz MS-09 vehicle, that pressure has been holding rock steady. Flight controllers, of course, will be monitoring the pressure levels inside the International Space Station during the course of today's spacewalk to make sure that nothing that is being done on the outside by Kononenko and Prokopiev disturbs the seal that was used in the repair technique conducted back on August 29th. The expectation is that only a very small sample of the sealant that will be taken from the hull on the exterior of the habitation module of the Soyuz MS-09 vehicle and placed in containers to be brought back to Earth. It is expected that the swabs that will be used to collect that sample material will in no way affect the pressure integrity of the repair work that was conducted back in August. Once Kononenko and Prokopiev have arrived at the inspection site on the habitation module of the Soyuz vehicle, again, Kononenko will use a series of tools to cut about a 10-inch swath of the multi-layer insulation away right there, as you see, from near that series of insignias that signify the word Soyuz that you see, along with the insignia from Roscosmos, RSC Energia, and the Russian flag. The work that will be done by Kononenko, again, is strictly designed not to repair anything, but to gather data and some samples of any of the sealant material that would have extruded on the outside hull of the Soyuz vehicle to return to Earth for analysis by Russian specialists back on the ground. The rectangular box that you see right in front of Kononenko's helmet, that's a sample container that the samples will be placed in for return to Earth. Once the work is done to collect those samples, there will be a insulation blanket that will be installed over the area where the cutting will have taken place to peel back that small section of insulation and the micrometeoroid orbital debris shield. That thermal blanket will be installed and secured in place with a series of clips so that that area will not be exposed to the heat of reentry when that vehicle comes home on December 19th. Kononenko is no stranger to this type of work on the outside of the International Space Station. On July 10th, 2008, he and cosmonaut Sergei Volkov used a series of tools to cut away thermal insulation on the Soyuz TMA-12 spacecraft to inspect pyrotechnic separation mechanisms on the vehicle in the wake of some pyrotechnic issues that resulted in a partial module separation failure back on April 19th, 2008 on the Soyuz TMA-11 vehicle that brought home Yuri Malenchenko, Peggy Whitson, and South Korean astronaut So-Yun Yi to a ballistic landing some 300 miles short of their intended landing zone in Kazakhstan. They were directed to conduct that EVA to inspect the pyrotechnic devices on their Soyuz vehicle that they were returning home in, and all of that work went off very well and verified that their pyrotechnic devices were in good shape to enable a normal landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan, which in fact they enjoyed a short time after that EVA was conducted.
Oleg, what is the current pressure? 008 and 7 minutes left to go. Same for EV2. Copy. Everything is great. Thank you.
You'll be hearing the interpretation of the conversations that will be taking place over the course of the 6.5-hour spacewalk by Kononenko and Prokopiev. The cosmonauts are conducting leak checks on their Orlan spacesuits as the pressure in the Pirs docking compartment continues to decrease down to vacuum. That will set the stage for final systems checks, and the green light being given by the Russian flight controllers for the two cosmonauts to open the hatch to the Pirs docking compartment to begin today's spacewalk. Once again, a good view of the area that will be the focus of attention during today's 6.5-hour spacewalk. At the top of your screen is the forward section of the three-section Soyuz spacecraft. This is the Soyuz MS-09 that launched back on June 3rd with Sergei Prokopyev in the center seat as Soyuz commander, Alexander Gerst in the left seat, and Serena Aunen, Chancellor of NASA, in the right seat. The same seating configuration that they'll be in next week when they return to Earth on the evening of December 19th U.S. time, the morning of December 20th in Kazakhstan. The three sections of the Soyuz, the uppermost section, that is the area where the leak inspection work will be taking place today, is called the habitation module, sometimes known as the orbital module. The forward section where the docking probe is located. Also, that is an area where there's a small area of space for the crew members to stretch their legs in during the transit from the launch pad of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan to their destination for their docking. The centermost section that's just out of the field of view is called the descent module. That's the area where the crew straps in for launch and landing. And the lower section of the Soyuz is the instrumentation and propulsion module, where the Soyuz engines are located, the solar arrays, and all of the propulsion systems that are associated with thrusters and the Soyuz's maneuvers during its time on orbit. The habitation module is depressurized right after the deorbit burn that begins the journey home for the Soyuz vehicle, almost immediately after that deorbit burn is completed. So the habitation module will be depressurized down to vacuum in advance of the pyrotechnic separation of these three sections just before the vehicle enters the Earth's atmosphere. By doing so, the descent module, traveling in the direction of the heat shield facing the direction of travel, that heat shield then is enabled to repel the heat of reentry, which builds up to about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit around the spacecraft until it descends into the lower regions of the atmosphere. So the habitation module basically is discarded. but is an important component today in providing an opportunity to collect samples of the sealant that may have extruded through the outside hull of that section of the Soyuz vehicle during the leak repair that was effected by Prokopiev and Alex Gerst back on August 29th.
Закончили реставрацию.
Pre-breathe is complete. And the countdown has started. Copy.
Олег, начнем работать по моей команде.
Okay, Oleg, so now you'll be performing the steps on my go. Copy.
The two cosmonauts have also now completed the pre-breathe, as they call it, of pure oxygen, cleansing nitrogen out of their bloodstreams, and in a tried and true technique that will prevent any condition known as the bends or decompression sickness from occurring when they step out into the vacuum of space. Throughout the course of today's spacewalk, you'll also be seeing up-close views of all of the work that Kononenko and Prokopiev will be conducting through helmet cameras that you're familiar with, that we see on every U.S. spacewalk and also on Russian spacewalks as well. The numbers that you'll be seeing for these helmet camera views, Oleg Kononenko's helmet camera will carry the number 18, usually seen at the lower right-hand corner of that view.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Sergei Prokopiev's helmet camera is designated as 20.
Is this Sergey and Oleg? Yes. Hello. Yes. Good evening.
Желаю успешного выхода, хорошей работы. Знаю, насколько она будет сложная, знаю, что вы еще абсолютно готовы к ней.
Yes, we're getting all good data from you, and would like to wish you good luck. All the medical data items are within range, satisfactory, and if you need us, we'll be standing by.
Хочу сказать, что от всех моих коллег по Роскосмосу вам большой привет, и давайте будьте на связи.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Хорошо, ну вы уже готовы сейчас уже, да?
So, are you ready? Yep.
Отлично, хорошо.
Okay, wonderful.
Давайте, я значит, и буду за вами наблюдать.
Спасибо большое.
Спасибо. Олег, Сереж, ну что,
Oleg, Sergey,
начинать работать по шагу 9.2
let's put step 9.2 into work.
и начинаем.
DC1 depress.
Экран включаем в положение инжектор.
Activate the injector. Copy. Injector is on for EV1 and EV2. Copy. Manual opening KSD. So, valve. That's affirmed. BSS depress valve is in depress mode.
И после открытия КСДСО давление падает, контролируем.
The pressure will be dropping after DC1 KSD valve opening. So you are go to monitor it. Okay. KSD open EVA. Pressure 530. $500. What are we bringing it down to? Дима.
До давления 12 а проверка будет у нас на фоне сброса в диапазоне 350-300 по
Unintelligible.
диапазоне 0,35-0,4.
035. Copy. 430 is the pressure. 04 on the Odessa valve. Copy.
Серег, посмотри там, при каком давлении мы КСД 2 открываем.
Sergey, can you take a look and see what pressure we open KSD valve at? 150. What is it? 150.
Дима, еще при каком давлении?
Dima, what was that again?
При давлении 350 по моновакуметру можно будет открывать КСД-2.
You are go to open KSD2 when you reach 350 on the MV gauge. Copy.
350.
3.
Открываю КСД-2.
Opening KSD2 valve.
Подтверждаю.
That's a go.
Давление в скафандре по ОДС в данный момент.
What's the oil line pressure? 04 and 04 for EV1 and EV2. Opening KSD2 valve. KSD2 is in the open position. Copy that. Pressure 310, 04 in suit. Copy.
По счетчику в правой части дисплея инжектор сколько работает?
How long has the injector been running per the right hand side of the monitor? 245. And it's counting back, to be honest with you. 230. That's what it should be doing.
Так, давление 230.
Pressure 230. 04 for Orlan P. Copy that. Very good.
Сбрасываем до 0,12.
Going down to 012, are we?
Да, идем до 12 миллиметров.
That's affirmed.
Необходимо будет при 20 перевести БСС в 2 ответа.
And then you'll need to switch BSS into O2 open EV once you've reached 012 for pressure.
И желательно, как только
Pressure 210.
сообщение при П ШСО равно 20 миллиметров БСС поставить в
As soon as you get the PDDC1 equals 20 millimeters, once that message is displayed, you are going to switch to O2 open EV on the BSS. Copy. P Orlan 04. Compartment pressure 190. Copy. Very good.
Ожидаем звук при давлении менее 100 миллиметров.
Standing by for tone once the pressure is gone below 100 millimeters. Copy. Let us know when you get that to pressure 160. P Orlan is 04. Copy that. $395. Pressure 140. About 38, I guess. Copy. Very good. Phenomenal.
Сколько у нас осталось еще работе инжектора?
How long has the injector been running? How long has it left? Got left? 30 seconds.
Когда счетчик закончится, пневмокран отключить.
Once the counter runs out, shut off the O2 flow selector. Pressure 110. 15 seconds left on the timer. Copy.